William Mackey Jr.'s History Club. We meet here twice a month. Please, everybody on the Zoom, will you mute yourself? We meet here twice a month in honor of William Mackey Jr., Amos Wilson, Gil Noble, Louis Ray Rivera, El-Haj Malik Al-Shabazz, Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, Ivan Van Sertima, Hubert Harrison, and all the historians who gave up fame and fortune, big cause, tenure, to burn the midnight oil, to bring history to the people that they care about, to contradict what white society says. Please, on the Zoom, mute yourself. On the Zoom, mute yourself, please. We meet here so these people will not be forgotten because they burn the midnight oil. So we want to keep their name alive, because if we leave it up to the powers that be, these individuals will be forgotten. That's why we meet here. So, can you bring the camera over here? We have here the Amos collection. These books are done by African World Info Systems. We have Blueprint for Black Power. We have the Psychology of Self-Hatred and Self-Defeat toward and Reclamation of the African Mind. We have the Developmental Psychology of the Black Child. We also have Amos Classic Black-on Black Violence. We also have The Awakening Natural Genius of the Black Child. Issues of Manhood in Black and White. Confronting Color Crisis in the African Diaspora. S.K. Damiano Cruz, Distorted Truth and the Bastardization of African Cosmetology. We also have Jazz in Jail, Louis Ray Rivera's classic. Etta Dixon's On the Wellness, and Revealing the Unspeakable Bible Verses. Earl Ponder, he had the book, and he passed away, and he left a whole bunch of books for Sababa to finish. Also, I have a couple of other books that I want you to, is a good read to get all the information. When China Sneezes, by Cynthia McKinney. From the coronavirus lockdown to the global political economic crisis. This is from Cynthia McKinney. Also, edited, John Joseph McCullough and Ronnie Cummins, forwarded by Robert F. Kennedy Jr., The Truth About COVID-19, Exposing the Great Reset, Lockdown, and Vaccine Passport, and the New Norm. Our own Dr. Randy Short has a new book. And this book is Slavery Mastery, Dr. Randy Short, The Impact of Religious Slavery Revealed. Excellent read. Also, with all the stuff going on with Facebook and YouTube and them censoring everything, this is an excellent book. I'm in the first chapter. An Ugly Truth by Sheila Frinkin and Cecilia Klein, Inside Facebook Battle for Domination. And already there's some stuff going on. Laying the Groundwork, Jeannie Etta McNeil, Charles Hamilton Houston and the Struggle for Civil Rights. And this is a classic I want everybody to be aware of. This is Dr. Scott Whitaker, called Mend This Sin. This is an excellent book, and we have it here at the Mackey's Group. But if you get it on YouTube, once you start reading this book, you'll have a whole different outlook on health and nutrition. So with that, we sell these books and give the money, send the money to Sababa so he can finish what he's doing, the great work of Amos Wilson. Now I'm going to give you some community events going on. Tomorrow, which is Thursday, on Facebook, Thorough Black Talk with Tad, Keisha, and Arshay. That's a program, comes on at 9 o'clock. It's a good program. Also, on Tuesdays at 5 o'clock, Manhattan Neighborhood Network Community Clock with Brother Mike Graves, Noel Leader, and Julian. That's an excellent program, Manhattan Neighborhood Network. Also, on Mondays, War on the Horizon. The Irritated Genie has a program coming out on Mondays via live stream. You can email me at csmith6528@AOL.com and I can send you the information when it comes out. Also, Saturdays at 10:30, Blog Talk Radio. Sister Empress Chi, and that's New Day Resurrection Radio. That information comes out of Philadelphia. 10:30, go in the blog. Excuse me, Mike?
PM.
10:30 p.m., sorry family. So that's a good information for people that want to get information. Now, tonight, we have our keynote speaker, one of the co-founding members of 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement, Brother Mike Graves. And his topic is a very powerful one, and something that we are losing faith in, and that's the history of black culture and current events going on. Without further ado, I'm going to give you our keynote speaker. Give him a big hand, family, Brother Mike Graves.
Say I am.
I am.
Because we are.
Because we are.
I am.
I am.
Because we are. I want to just talk about what black culture is. Certainly, there are many aspects to it, and whichever one you embrace, you're probably right in the way you embrace and live it and act it out. There are many facets to it, but there are some negative things that are present in the culture, and that's very concerning when we see outsiders, interlopers, being a part of that process or influencing behind the scenes that process. Now, I have to tell you in advance, I do have a dry throat, sore throat, so I will be occasionally turning around just to sip, because that's just the way it is. Now, what I want to do, thank you, Barry. We want you from the outset, we want to open your thinking. Now, I'm going to do a part 2 of this, but the part 1 is going to be a little lighter and just trying to conceptually bring out a few things about what is black culture. Now, from the outset, I'm going to use the terms like black or African interchangeably for the night. One can argue there might be some differences in the two terms. However, I'm going to use them interchangeably tonight. And then when I do part 2, you know, hopefully I'll have the opportunity to do a part 2. And when I do part 2, then I'm going to get very specific with respect to what is black culture. Is it under attack? Is it real? Do we have a culture? Or is this something that has been given to us? And what to do about it? We're going to get into that in part 2. Part 1. From the outset, let me just ask, does anybody have an idea what culture is? If somebody just says to you, what's your culture, or what's culture? What would you say? What would be a basic answer to what culture is? Does anybody have an idea?
A way of life?
A way of life. That's the basic way people say it. Anybody else? Most people just say, when you say, well, what is culture? People say it's a way of life. And that sounds very simplistic, but it's accurate. It's a way of life. Now the question would be, is this organically linked to us, by us, for us, or has it been influenced by outsiders, invaders, or I dare say enemies of our people? Have they influenced the culture? Now, if culture is, I'll give a more defined definition, even though the best answer and the simplest answer is a way of life. That's what culture is. It's a way of life. But you can say that it's art, that it's a manifestation of human intellectual achievement. You know, it's collective in that sense. So we're talking about not just individual intellectualism that is achieved. We're talking about it in a collective sense. It's customs, social institutions, certainly achievements of any social group, ethnic group. So that's a more expansive, and it has characteristics, you know, knowledge of self and of the group, and it also has to do with language, religion, culture, art, social patterns. That's a good one. Art is very important. That expression and the way it's expressed, very important. So that's basically, that's the concept. That's the concept of culture. Now, want to, in that sense, and art is key. Art is key because we're going to focus in on that, even though specifically in the next one, I'm going to get rather deep in it and get a little technical and give you a history of its foundation. But basically, Brother Neely Fuller, I like to refer to him as Dr. Neely Fuller. And certainly, if they are doctors, if they are real PhDs, he's certainly one. He has said that there are 9 elements of human activity. And want to just point that out as a backdrop on this presentation. Economics. What's economics, basically? When you say economics, what are you talking about? In a collective sense, not just for you personally. When you say economics, what are we talking about?
A way to sustain oneself.
How one will sustain oneself. Okay, that's good. Anything else?
Buying and selling of goods.
Absolutely. Buying and selling of goods, how one sustains oneself. Buying land, buying property, sure, exchanging property, that's economics. You know, there's no doubt about it, and that's important. What about education? I'm going to go through those 9 elements. And economics is one. Education. What's education? There's no bad answers. Education.
Obtaining knowledge.
Obtaining knowledge. Okay, what about decision making? Is that a part of education?
Yeah.
Being able to make good decisions? You know,
Yeah.
if you see your 13-year-old nephew pulls up to you in a brand new Maserati and say, "Get in, auntie." You getting in that car? 13 years old, and you know his brother or his sister is your brother's sister, and they struggling to make it, and he pulls up in a brand new Maserati or Mercedes-Benz. You gonna get in the car?
You might.
Not me.
If you do, it's a bad decision.
Exactly.
But decision making is important. If anything, you're going to get him out of that car also, right away. Get out of the car. Get out of that car. Park it right there. And then you're going to have a talk with him over where he get that car. So education is important. What about entertainment? I'm going to go through all nine. Number 3 is
Isn't that
entertainment.
culture?
Yes, it has a big thing to do with culture. Yeah.
Who's not for that social skill entertainment?
Entertainment, yeah, like what?
Knowing how to talk or go out to
Talk.
plays
Yeah,
and interact.
absolutely, sure. Anybody else? Okay, well, entertainment, come on, man. How do you entertain yourself sometimes? After work or after a rough day, what do you do?
The average person takes a drink.
Okay, a drink. Could be. Anything else?
Music, literature.
Music. Literature. How about movie making?
Movies.
Movie is
Somebody wants to sit down after a rough day, after you eat, maybe watch a movie, a sitcom, a movie, just somebody singing, music, or just lay back and put on some music.
What about just taking a bath?
Taking a bath, okay. Okay, but after you get out of the bath, that is a form of relaxation, but to entertain yourself, I don't know. I mean, maybe I guess there are people out here that feel they look so good that maybe in the bathtub they say, damn, I'm decent, you know, my body's tight. You know, you see Ray Ray, all that bodybuilding stuff, so I'm sure he entertains himself in his shower. But, so that's entertainment. And we all do it in some form or another when you wind it down, music, what have you. What about labor?
Work.
That's
Labor.
economics.
Okay, that's part of economics, yeah. It's working, a job, or lack thereof, seeking a job. That's all part of labor. You know, being involved in labor, co-workers, unions, what have you. That's all part of that process. Anything else to labor?
Anyone?
Anything else? Does labor leads to you making money? That's a part of labor, making money, paying bills. That's all a part of it. What about now? What
Developing your community.
part of labor is building a labor force? It builds community, no doubt about it. Let's go to number 5, law. How does law influence your life on a daily basis? How does law?
You said war.
Law, L-A-W, law. How does law affect your human activity?
Trying to follow rules.
Everything, yeah, rules for the.
Understanding the rules, following the rules, anything else?
Protect,
Say that again?
protection,
Rejection or
protection,
protection
and rejection.
and rejection. Okay.
2 types of law, black and white. Right?
Yeah. Anything else? Anything somebody else can add to that? Okay, what about policing? Has a lot to do with that. Enforcement of law, judges,
Oh, okay.
courts.
Stenographers, court officers.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's part of the labor force of those who control the court system. That's all part of the criminal justice system.
Prison pipeline.
Prison pipeline. Okay, okay. Now, number 6, politics.
Liars.
Guys, that's part of it. You better believe it. I mean, you laughing, but that's a part of it.
Domestic and foreign policies.
We're
Law
talking
and policy.
today or in its purest sense. The intent,
Well-
the intent of these for,
Okay.
as it exists today,
Well, politics
as a weapon.
can be a weapon.
Oh.
Politics
Law.
can be a coercive element that enforces and imposes things on your life. So that's all a part of the law. So it has to do with relationships. Your law has to do with your relationship with anything, your landlord, your bank, your job,
Family.
Lord,
Family.
your family, and in politics will affect how often you get your garbage collected. Yes?
I think there's laws among friendship as well.
There's laws among friendship. That's an interesting one. I want to come back to that at some point because that's interesting. There are laws among friends.
You don't cross your friends. You don't sell out your friends.
That's a sort of unwritten memorandum of understanding. You don't cross your friends. Even if you win something, and what he's saying is important now, because let's say you were in something that's illicit. And let's say your main man, you and him making money in the street. Do you expect him, the way he makes money in the street, to get fast on you?
What?
To get fast on you, to do something to get money from you.
You don't expect.
If you and him, y'all do that to other people.
Yeah.
So you don't expect him to do that to you.
No.
I mean, so you have a good point when you say there's even an understanding with respect to law among friends. Would a gang have laws?
Yeah, allegedly.
I would call it a code more than a law.
The same thing.
Well, what's a code? Okay, to you, what's a code?
It's a behavior standard.
A standard?
It's a behavior standard.
A behavior standard.
Mm.
That's good.
Without someone saying it, it's just,
Okay, so
through your culture, you kind of.
So in politics, you're saying in politics, even a gang would have certain, a code and understanding. Okay, and that understanding is among friends. There's an understanding, an unwritten understanding that you have with your brothers and your sisters. Blood, I'm talking about blood now. You have certain understandings that you could never do to your brother. You know, that's like you going over to your brother's house and his wife is there and he's not there and something jump over. With your brother? That's unusual. You know, that's just not supposed to be done.
At funerals it happens.
If you're with your brother and he's doing something behind his wife's back, you don't go back and tell him.
And that's an understanding too. So in politics or law, there are certain things that govern that, whether it's written or not. There's a general understanding. Okay, what about religion? I'm trying to walk through the 9 things, but now religion, when I say that that's a human activity, what exactly is that? You know, and if you want to refer it back to the initial topic, which is culture, what's religion? Or how do we approach religion?
Religion.
It's supposed to be a spiritual belief.
It's a spiritual belief, absolutely. And it doesn't necessarily have to be everybody's cup of tea. It might be yours. You know, we have people that are religious, but they might not go to a temple. You know, they might not go to a building, a church, a mosque, a synagogue.
I would call people like that spiritual.
Right.
But they're spiritual.
They're not religious, they're spiritual.
Does anybody know somebody that's very spiritual, but they don't go to church or whatever and gather with others, but the person is spiritual, they're kind, they're moral, they're nice, but they just don't associate or at least gather with others collectively for whatever reason. But they're spiritual.
Yeah.
So there's a difference, and you can be spiritual and you can be very religious, but that does not necessarily mean you gather on a given day with others. You know, and if we talk about morality, that's a part of our culture, but I'm gonna get to that. I'm gonna get a little, get to the history of it in the second part, but in this is the first part. I want to keep things loose and kind of keep you engaged. So religion is a belief. It's
A belief system.
it's a belief system, and somehow the majority of our people have some type of belief system. You don't get a lot of us, and I'm being some of it is anecdotal, but I've been a lot of places, and you don't find a lot of atheists that are black. You don't find a lot. As a matter of fact, if you had to find 10 downtown on Fulton Street shopping while you shopping, you'd have a hard time getting 10 people that could say, I do not believe that there is God, God does not exist. Be hard. If you had 10 minutes to find 10 people, you might not find 10 people.
Well, from what I understand, a lot of younger students, college, high school, have disregarded the concept of God because they wonder why God lets all this stuff happen.
Okay.
You understand? And they don't believe that there's a God because they see God as someone that should interfere with everything that goes wrong.
Okay. That's legit. And but I'm going to get into the history of it, like I said, another part. But historically speaking, the next generation has always raised questions about the approach of a generation or two before them. So, put it this way. If a young person who's, let's say young, 20, 21, sophomore, junior in college, they're in college, and they raising questions as to why is God allowing all these things to go down. And you are, let's say you were a generation ahead of them, so I'll put 20 years on that 20 and say you at least 40. And they're talking to you at 40, where you might have experienced some of the civil rights movement or the tail end of it. What would you say to them?
If they said what?
If they asked you, why is there a God? Because look at all these things that are going on. Now, I do know there are things that are going on, but I would say to them, especially while they're students, I would say, your worst day is better than Harriet Tubman's best day. She's never had a day like you. You in college. She in the woods with a gun, trying to bring some people out after she escaped from slavery. She cold and freezing and no food and got to keep going till she can get to a location where somebody can hand her a biscuit.
And so then what do you say to the kid that's riding up and down the train with no home and living in a shelter and they're hungry and cold?
I'm not in any way dismissing hard times.
No, I'm just talking about that youngster being able to relate to what you're saying.
Okay, but I'm just saying you got to meet people where they are, and certainly you're going to miss some people along the way. But I'm just saying that, okay, here's what. Then I will pose a question to you. Do you agree that your worst day is better than Harriet Tubman's best day. Is that fair?
Yeah,
Mine personally, but
technically, yeah, but I'm not running from slave catchers. And I'm not trying to lead people to a place of freedom by moonlight at nighttime, you know.
Harriet Tubman didn't
When
have
Harriet Tubman got busted across the head, she was working in the house and tried to, actually she got caught taking a biscuit. And the madam of the house busted upside her head and she never recovered. That's why she had those dizzy spells. Okay? So you have to understand now, maybe somebody here doesn't understand what chattel slavery is. But because if you think the fact that this stuff, the challenges that are before us now, I'm not saying there are no challenges, but if you for 1 second believe that you had bad days that are comparable to a slave that's being beaten and whipped, you working all day, you got whips all over your back, the marks of a whip all over your back, you don't even know who your mother is. She was shipped off or you was shipped off, but when you was 1 year old or 2 years old after she stopped nursing you, and you comparing that to somebody that's out here struggling to get a job or somebody that's homeless right now, they would take that in a heartbeat. Are you kidding me? Let's be clear. Let us be clear. If you don't know what chattel slavery is, I'll stop what I'm doing and talk about it for a minute. It's not a problem. Because we can't even begin to compare. You can't compare a black man or a woman being extracted from their homeland, from their parents, by the use of a gun, chain around their neck, shackles around their feet, and they've been taken to an unknown land. They're there a month, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, whatever it might take, to get from, whether you're in Gambia or Ghana or somewhere, taken across an unknown sea, the Atlantic Ocean, and you either end up in Brazil, Jamaica, Trinidad, or Charleston, South Carolina, where the majority of us that are here ended up. And during that time, you living in urine, feces, and they realize after a while they got to bring you up on top of the ship at least for a few minutes because you're not made to live in all that. And they had different formations of packing where they pack you on the hull of a ship and the person that's right on top of you is urinating right on you while you laying there. And you can't even move. You're on the side for weeks at a time. So they got to take you out of that condition, obviously, and they have somebody cleaning the ship, and you got to come to the top and at least get some air and some water on you for that brief moment of time. And you know all the diseases that fester. And then they put you right back down there, and you get on that other side or the same side, and you do that for weeks and weeks until you get to your destination. And that's just the Atlantic. That's just the travel. That's just the travel. You don't have an idea what's coming next. I don't even know why I'm talking about that because I made a statement that I thought would just flow through everybody easily. That their best day, I mean, your worst day is better than their best day. I'm talking about everybody in here. Everybody.
that may be true for the people in here.
It's definitely true.
That may be true, yeah, but we have a lot of problems in our community.
I'm not saying that we
That's not
don't.
true for a lot of people in our community.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying. I mean, you're going all the way back there, but there's people that live like you described
Okay.
about slavery.
I don't know anybody that's whipped from sun up to sundown.
I do. You ever worked in family court? I do.
I've been there.
Well,
And you know-
if you were there for a visit, try working there. You'll see a whole lot of what you're talking about. That's
Okay.
all I'm saying. You
That's
can't
not a
just.
physical whipping, it's a psychological thing.
Okay,
Really?
here's what.
You mean the
Here's
cops,
what.
when you tell me where the cops beat up the parent, the fathers for not paying the child support?
Okay,
That's
whatever.
not what family
Okay.
court list here.
I see what you're saying, sis. I see what you're saying, but again, you do not have a real concept of what chattel slavery is. Because I understand.
My concept
hard
of chattel
sex.
slavery.
Okay.
I'm just saying, I'm just saying, as I sit here, I agree with what you're saying, but you're missing a whole generation since the heroin and crack, and now.
I haven't commented on those
A
things
whole generation
I have not
of people that
commented.
live like chattel
I
slavery.
have not commented on those things.
You said what? You haven't what?
I have not commented on those things
Oh,
yet.
well, that's what my mind is going, as you say what you say.
Okay, well,
That's
look.
all.
So should I mention crack? Should I mention Agent Orange? Should I mention
I'm just talking
COVID?
about what
and
it
all these other
caused, what those things have caused in our neighborhood that leads our children to live like you described. That's all I'm saying. Now, I don't want to sit here and reflect just on my life and how great it is when there's plenty of people that are living like you described.
Ain't nobody today living.
There's nobody like
Oh, really?
Oh, that's
All right, okay.
Not chattel slaves.
absurd.
No,
Okay.
they used to,
It's not
matter of
absurd.
fact, there were times
It is
when they
not
would beat the
absurd.
slaves so bad, they would actually set them on fire after they beat them.
All right.
They burned them.
Has anybody here saw a black person put between two wild horses
They split in half.
and split basically in half?
They did that
with body
with
parts?
they did that with the women too. And they used to also, after she gave birth, they would stomp the baby.
Yeah.
So, I'm not saying that horrors didn't happen to us. They still happen. I'm clear on what happened to Mary Turner in Georgia. The brutality that she experienced before they killed her. Okay, Mary Turner was a black woman. I think it was around 1920. Let's say thereabouts. Somebody in 1920, her husband, who was working for a white person, went to his boss and asked for his pay. After a couple of weeks, he wanted to be paid, and the boss told him that not only am I not going to pay you, you owe me. Which white people had that option of doing back then? They can accuse you of owing them while they work for you. Consequently, he demanded his money, and the white person had him put in jail. She went to the local jail, the sheriffs, and asked for them to free her husband. That man did owe her husband at least 2 weeks or more pay, and when the sheriff refused to let him go, she said she'll be back. She's going to get a lawyer. She's going to find a lawyer and raise some sand about this. Well, they killed him that night. They killed him. You okay? They killed him that night when she came back. He was hung, and they told her he hung himself. She said, I know my husband. He wouldn't kill himself. He was looking forward to things that we had planned. And so she said that she was going to go to civil rights organizations, and she was going to make this an issue. So, and she was pregnant, by the way, because he was looking forward to that child. Well, she ran, and she knew full well when the sheriff said, yeah, okay, we got something for you. She understood that, and she knew to run because the sheriff was going to kill her. So she ran in the woods. They tracked her down in the woods, the sheriff and his other colleagues, and they took her, hung her upside down by her legs, hung her upside down, put her over a fire while they hung her upside down, split her stomach. The baby came out. They stomped the baby, as somebody mentioned. They stomped the baby when the baby came out and into the fire. It was just horrific. And that happened in Georgia, so those kind of things happen, and that's obviously 1920, so we talk about post-slavery. But I'm just saying, in general, collectively, so we won't personalize it, collectively, all of us, our worst day is better, thousandfold, than an enslaved African's best day. Just the threat as a black woman of a man imposing his will on you anytime he wants to. The slave master or slave owner, some people don't like to say masters, but they will call slave masters. But the slave owner can walk with his 16-year-old son, 15, 16-year-old son, and say, son, take your pick. I'm taking that one right there. Which one you got? And they would take them into another area away from where his wife is, and he would have that luxury to do that. That's the existence. So whatever her situation was domestically, whether she had a slave marriage or whatever, it didn't matter. Because he gonna do what he do because he owned both of them. So I'm just saying that to say, just to give you a basic example, whether it includes beating, whipping, brutality, they live better, they live worse than any of us can imagine.
What they did was under force. They were forced to do what they did. When I took drugs, nobody forced me. It was a choice.
Okay, no, I'm not
So
down
I would still say that my worst day is better than their best day.
Oh, yeah.
Alright? Nobody stuck a gun in my head and said, you gotta sniff dope or smoke crack.
Yes, sir.
I took it upon myself to do it because I wanted to.
Right. So I want to get through the last two human activities. We did religion. What about sex?
There's rules for sex. It depends on who the partners are.
And with respect to culture, you say sex.
What about, well, let me ask you a question. Then why didn't they put the drugs and the crack in the white community and not the black
They
community?
put the temptation of it in the black community. We made the choice of whether or not we want to be with it. People told you, yo, this is what's happening. You had the squares with the people who wasn't squares. The people who wasn't squares was doing, or the people who wasn't squares were saying, this is the hip stuff. So a lot of people wanted to be a part of the hip stuff.
It goes deeper than just a choice.
Alright, to me, it was a psychological thing, man. To me.
Okay. But we can,
And also dysfunctional family, dysfunctional childhoods. A lot of people come from abusive childhood.
Yeah.
They feel like
And you see all the other stuff you're bringing in now?
Yeah.
well, all of that stuff is true. That's why I mentioned all the other things. We said economics, education, entertainment, labor, laws, politics, religion, and then we had sex. Which means that our concept of sex might be different from what we would have had left to our own devices. Now, certainly drugs, that's all a part of how, your concept, your worldview of drugs has to do with your culture. Any man or woman that does not adhere to his culture is liable to do anything. If you don't have a culture, the culture is going to sustain you. If you don't have that culture, you're liable to do almost anything under the sun. So drugs is just one of them. Do you know what Harriet Tubman how she would look at you if she saw a black man pull out a gun and shoot another black man and go in his pockets and take some money? She's like, what is that? You actually killed this man to get a few dollars in your pocket? But we don't look at it the same way she would look at it. Okay? We don't look at it as that's sick. We look at it, oh, that's the way it go. Cat roll up on you and pull out a gun. He ain't got to explain to you anything. You're gonna say, you know what's up. You know. Pull it out. If it's wintertime, you got a fly fur coat on that costs a few $1,000, you know, take it off. Coat, your pockets. That's it.
The shoes.
He said, you know what's up. And you might look at the shoes depending on what you got on. You got that coat on, you might have the shoes that go with it.
Yeah.
So, you know, and that's the way it's going to be. So, I'm saying that somebody that was not a part of this culture that we're presently in can look and see the insanity. Do you think that Henry Highland Garnett and Martin Luther pictured black people killing each other, selling out each other, doing all these things? He said, look, man, we knew who the enemy was. You don't know who the enemy is? So, you don't think that affects the way we approach sex? We don't approach sex the way that we would have in ancient Kemet, or we was a part of a con culture. Sex is totally different. Totally different from what it would be here in Brooklyn. Totally different. The way you look at a woman as a man is totally different.
We don't even know what was going on in ancient Kemet on how that went. That was wiped away from us.
Right, we don't know about it.
That was wiped away from us.
Right. If you don't read the Hosea and other things, how are we going to know? If you don't read the sacred scrolls, the tablets, the stone tablets or papyrus, how are you going to know? Well, that was taken away from us. We don't know about that. We don't know how to talk to a woman other than all that basic stuff. Yo, where you live, where you work at, what's your digits, Yo, can I catch up with you? I'll let you later.
If you talk to her about the constellations, she's going to say you're cool.
Well, look, I can remember, or I have knowledge. No, you're right now. I can remember and have knowledge of how can you even approach this woman without talking to her parents first? You were not allowed to. I'm not even talking about Kemet. I'm not talking about West Africa. I'm talking about down south. You got to talk to her parents. You can't take her to the movies. You don't go over to somebody's house, say, yo, sis, come on, let's roll. And she got parents in the house? Can't do that.
Gunners don't allow that now.
Is that right? You talking about the gunners in South Carolina, Georgia? Those gunners? Okay. He said the gunners don't allow that now.
Can't roll up to nobody.
Because that's more tradition. That's more in the culture. So, just let me know when I'm getting close to 9 o'clock, right, in case I lose it. I'm just, so the whole thing about sexual contact is totally different. The concept of it is totally different. Right now, it's nothing to you to be sitting with 3 or 4 guys outside and a woman walk by. You say, damn, man, look at that. Look at this, certain parts of her body. You discuss that with your boys. You're discussing. Is that the way men discuss women?
In general.
Before?
In general.
Why are there some societies where women are covered? Why are their hair sometimes covered?
Everything is covered.
Why is the body covered?
So a man will desire?
So yeah, I'm just raising that question now. You can maybe desire, you're saying in terms of you won't desire, you can desire, but you're not going to see much. You're going to have to get to know them. So I'm just saying, let me just get to the last one and then we can go into some other things. War, the last one. That's number 9. And to those who missed that, I'm going through Neely Fuller's, his It's the basics of human activity.
You just said war.
War. What's war? If you want to relate it to any way to culture, it's fine. But you know, what's war?
Conflict.
Conflict.
Domination.
Conflict, domination.
Devastation,
Economics.
destruction.
It has to do with economics, but
Big business.
conflict, devastation.
Big business.
Nobody want to say the K word, huh? Killing. Part of war is killing.
I call
Killing.
it death and destruction.
Death and destruction, yes. Anything else? Death and destruction.
Officers.
And incarceration, you know, when you lose a war, you know, they're POW. And so it's not just a battle. It's not like when the battle ends, everybody just stand there in the field and shake hands.
It's land grabbing and resource taking.
Yeah, you know, to the victor go the spoil. Consequently, when you lose, there's a way to find out who lost. You know, like in sports. The way you know who won the game is because they keep score. If they didn't keep score, you could say, oh, you know, I dunked on him, or I shot a jump shot in his face, or I shook him, or I scored a touchdown on him. No. The first thing they determine in sports is who won. Now in war, when you win, you know the old saying, to the victor go the spoils. What are the spoils of war? You name it. Land is first thing.
And women.
Land. Well, women, a whole lot of things. Your freedom, your language can be taken away. Laws will be imposed on you. Yes.
Contract.
Yeah, all of that. So we're talking about, you know, when you lose, you lost. You know, so it's not simply after you win, everybody goes home the same. No, you know, the game has changed. It's
Did you
different.
say America won this war in Afghanistan?
Yeah, America don't lose wars. The businessmen won.
There you go. And that's what the colonel
The
said.
businessmen won, you know, in Afghanistan.
That's what one of the officers said. He said, for 20 years we held it together, and only took 1 week for it to collapse. He said it was all about the contractors.
Well, look, when you see Afghans walking around with cell phones, and you know, in the desert, and they walking around with cell phones, and they have air conditioning, and they have certain green products and vegetables and things that are not germane to that area, they got it from somewhere. Somebody's got a contract. If you look at Rikers Island, somebody's got that contract to feed, you know, whether it's spinach or collard greens or rice, chicken, milk, whatever kind of meat. Somebody's got that contract for the toilet paper. When they use toilet paper, somebody's got a contract for the sheets, those mattresses. You know, so it's not only office, it's not only a court system that puts them there. It's not only police officers that make the arrests. It's a whole system. And business is booming in so many places. So that's why when you say war, it's very important in war. You can see the winners now. They don't say that. I mean, who won the war in, who won the Civil War? Who won the Revolutionary War? Who won the war, the Haitian Revolution? Who won?
I mean,
They won the battle.
They won the battle, but the French overall won the war. And they still
Yes, sir. You're absolutely right. So I'm just saying that to say that we got to be careful and more definitive, which I'm being the second one. I'm just like loose off the cuff now. I'm going to be more definitive, like I said, in the next one. But when you say, when we talk about culture, culture is something that's passed down from generation to generation. And as I said before, it has a lot of certain characteristics, and you mentioned it's a way of life. Yes, it's a way of life. But if we say, well, that's part of the culture, we're going to have to be careful. What's part of the culture? They say, I hear all the time, Jay-Z represents the culture.
Against the hip
And I say, well, what culture? What culture does he represent?
There's no such thing.
Rap. That's the culture. That's the rap culture.
Okay.
Rap culture. The modern rap culture.
Okay.
No such thing.
What's a proverb? When you say a proverb, what's a proverb? Because I'm going to give you a couple of African proverbs.
It's a law, isn't it? Or is it a lot? Is it
A saying?
It's a what? What did you say?
A saying?
It's a saying.
Philosophy?
Yeah, it's philosophical. It has to do with a certain philosophy, baby. What?
It can be philosophical.
It can be, yeah, no doubt. It's a saying generally, but it has a pithy message, you know, an intense, brief, but forceful message behind it. It's like Kwame Nkrumah said, I'm African not because I was born in Africa. Africa was born in me. So he's saying every black man and woman on the planet is African. So he would say, brother, I'm no more African than you. You no more African than me. So that's the way he can embrace me, by telling me, even though he was born in Ghana, he's telling me that Africa is my home. So, an African proverb like, the axe forgets what the tree remembers. What does that mean? I want you to think about it.
Everything.
That's an African proverb. The axe forgets what the tree remembers.
Everything's been taken from the earth. The soul, his root.
Kind of sort of. Now I told you that a proverb is something intense, as you said, philosophical, but it's giving you a message in a very forceful, succinct, in a brief way, but it's giving you a message. The axe basically has no conscience. When you swinging it don't care. You swinging it's hitting that tree. What's in pain? The tree is in pain. Once that's over, the tree is chopped. Who remembers the situation better? The tree, not the axe. The axe moving on. The axe done did that to a whole lot of trees, right? But that one tree feels it. Now, there was a song. He who feels it knows it. Who sung that?
So Ray Armstrong, I think.
Bob Marley.
Bob Marley, yeah.
Now, maybe you mentioned somebody else who sung it, but I'm just saying. Bob Marley sung it.
Yeah,
He who feels it knows it.
Yeah.
So that tree felt it. And that tree knows it. The axe done moved on. If that tree said to that axe a year later, remember what you did to me? What the axe gonna say? Remember. You know?
You also made a song that said, if you're the big tree, I'm the small axe. Why boast about thyself, oh evil man, playing smart and not being clever. So you work in iniquity to achieve vanity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now what's the meaning?
In other words, he's telling the man, he's really talking to the system. He's telling them that everything they're doing against people who are oppressed is to their own advantage, and they basically eventually be cut down for their wrongs and for their iniquity. This is what I got.
Okay. Well, let me just say that we need to understand concretely that so many of the things we do, and I can't wait to when I get to it. The things that we do, so many things that we do that we think are African or cultural, but these are things that the Europeans have imposed on us. Now, when I went through the 9 things of activity, I asked you about economics. What's your view on economics? Education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Now, you only have too much to say about sex. And that's probably because most of us, or some of us, to some degree, have a European concept of it. We don't have an African concept of sex, how to approach it, how to, as I said, in what Rajin pointed out, which I didn't know, he pointed out, he said among the Gullah, they still, you got to come meet the parents. You can't take this young girl out from out of her parents' house and go anywhere. So that's interesting that the Gullah, you know, and you know, they're directly from places like Sierra Leone and places in West Africa where they came, they were brought here for the rice crops and things like that. Well, there was a time when cotton was king and tobacco, sugar at other times, and certainly with the rice. So, and when you go there, they still have some of their African language. We used to go in United African Movement, we used to go there every year to the Gullah Festival, and we would go to the island and go to the center, and they used words that we didn't know. But these were African words from their language, and they knew that they knew what the words meant, or they were saying, or they would say things between the Gullahs, and I don't pretend to understand the Gullahs as well as I should. And I've heard debates on Gullahs and Geechees and all that stuff, and I found them amusing and very educational. And I remember one of them said, and I picked it up, one of them said, Deep. And when I heard it, it sounded like Deep. But the person said, did you eat yet?
Did you eat yet?
But the way they said it, it was Gullah. They were asking, did you eat yet? But they said, Deep. I'm like, wow, you know, but they had words, they got words that you can trace back to West Africa. And so when you talk about culture, is our, you know, some of us, you know, and since that's West Africa, should we observe more of the Akan culture, or should we observe, some of us, you see a lot of people, the way they dress, they're more Kemetic. They look to Patah. You know, we look to Kemetic history and their religions that come out of ancient Kemet. So, depending on who you talk to or what historian is teaching on embracing a certain culture, would that be our culture? Would Maya be a part of what we should practice now? Or should there be a combination of the Nguzo Saba, which is based on West Africa? So, as a matter of fact, maybe I'm saying Ma'at, maybe some. Does anybody know what Ma'at is? There's 7 principles.
Truth, justice,
No,
righteousness,
that's,
Yeah, go ahead. You mentioned 3.
propriety.
No, but you used right. You said truth, justice. You said
Righteousness.
righteousness. Yeah,
Harmony.
close. Yeah, harmony. You said harmony.
Yes.
Harmony. Yeah.
corporate economics.
What?
No, that's the 7.
No, I'm talking about mine. Not
Mine's 42, isn't it?
no 7.
But as they say, it's 42 altogether. I have not this, I have not that.
Oh, that's the so-called negative confessions.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something different.
Okay.
But you know, that's all Kemetic.
Okay.
That's Kemetic. And that flies in the face of those who say that the Ten Commandments came from God to Moses. And those who study it will say, well, Moses left out the other 32.
Right.
You know, as a priest, he knew the 42, but he gave you 10.
Right.
So yeah, no doubt about it. But
piety?
no. But you got most of it. You only missing 2, which is order and morality.
What about
When you kept
reciprocity?
saying, I know what you meant when you were saying, piety. You was talking about morality.
What about reciprocity? Isn't it in it?
No, righteousness. No. It's truth, balance, order, harmony, righteousness, morality, and justice.
Okay. So I guess reciprocity would come under justice, right?
Yeah, that's under justice.
Okay.
So it wasn't like the words you were using were incorrect. And it's just that, when you say the 7, those are 7 defined principles. Now the Ngusa Saba, name the Ngusa Saba, name it. Umoja, come on.
Kumoja, Kujijakulia,
Well, you jump. Well, does anybody know them in order? Umoja, Ujima, Ujama, Nia, yeah, that's purpose. That's later on. Any other ones? You said Kumu, that's creativity. That's Imani, that's the last one. Okay. So we have options because when I juxtapose that and ask you what's being practiced here daily in the streets, it's going to be totally different. When you look at those concepts of the Ngusa Saba or the Husia, the Akan people, whether Yoruba, and then you juxtapose that with ancient Kemet, a solid set, and you look at that, and then you weigh that against what you see today. It's totally different. So it's almost, I'm going to go into some things about here and now.
The thing about sex. The thing about sex. I was always told that you make, well, not always, but at a certain point I started learning that before you make love to a woman's body, you make love to her mind and her soul through conversation. Just through conversation.
Does that justify things? I mean, in other words,
if she opens
I'm getting ahead of myself, but we had a song called "Did Not Blow Your Mind." But go ahead.
But that,
Delphonics. Did not blow your mind this time. Did not.
Music was music. Music was music.
So, because this brother rationalized and saying, well, I talked to him first. I hit it, but I talked to him first. What's that?
Sex is natural instinct that God gave us.
Sex is natural, is God-given, certainly. But if you express it outside the bedroom, in other words, if you got a song saying doing it in the butt and I do this and I do that or back that thing up and all this other stuff, it's out here. You don't think that reflects a certain mindset?
It does.
So I'm gonna stop right here and we're gonna take our quick break, and then we'll pick it up from there. The different things of sex and how it's done today. But I'll stop right there and then we'll pick up in 5 minutes.
5-10 minute break. We got some croissants and coffee and stuff in there. So everybody's saying what they can't do, but they're doing shit right in front. Okay, everybody enjoy their festivities. We're gonna come back and go to about 9:30, and that's it. If you have any questions on the Zoom platform, you could ask your questions also. We will bring back Mike.
Okay, just real quick, just want to start with what we ended. I'll just go a couple of minutes and we can open up the Q&A. I was just thinking about, my brother in the back when he was saying in terms of sex. And again, I dare say that our concept, our worldview, our mindset with respect to just the approach of relating to the opposite sex is has been ill-effective. Like I said, I'll go into some foundational specific things the next go-round. But I want to just say that, and I understood what he said, and I understood clearly that he's saying basically that there was an approach that he felt was morally upright. What he's saying is that as a young person, you talk and you sit down and discuss things first. You don't just find yourself in a bed with them. He's saying that there's an approach where you talk, and then he kind of bragged about himself, saying about, his rap was tight when he was young. He could talk basically a girl into doing whatever.
No, what I said was that, and when I was young, I didn't know this stuff.
You was told about talking, and
Yeah, but over the years, someone was telling me, older guys was telling me, more cultivated men were telling me that before you really make love to a woman's body, you have to know how to make love to her mind.
Right.
And I remember when I was in the 9th grade, another 9th grader told me that, but I thought he was crazy.
okay, but you also saw Goldie say that. You also saw Goldie say that too in the back.
He said that?
You know he said that.
I don't remember the lines.
You don't remember the map?
I remember.
You saw the map.
Yeah, I saw the map.
Trying to act like he didn't see it.
I just have
Goldie said in the map, before you get the body, he said you gotta get her mind.
Yeah, that's simple.
Well, yeah, he was a pimp. He became the top dog
But this guy was speaking more like,
in the movie.
this guy was speaking more like this is how you would do it with your wife and your girl.
Certainly, and I'm sure that anyone would tell you that anyone that knows that the largest sex organ you have is your brain. And that's
sometimes
certain,
you just gotta walk in the room, right?
your mind. Your mind, depending on you, obviously, put it this way. Certainly, a person who's being raped are not going to enjoy sex the way a person who is accommodating and looking forward to that experience would have. Obviously, your mind has to be in line with your body for it to be a pleasurable and enjoying, experience. So, no question about it. So they were right, but just looking at it, because you reminded me of the Delphonics song, did not blow your mind this time, didn't I?
Yeah, they was talking about a woman that he was talking about a woman that played him out, and he got tired. Yeah, walked away.
Yeah, well, I would rather those songs to a song that says, I got different holes in different area codes, okay,
Spinning around the world,
and I would prefer that to a song that said, I got the baddest bitch in the game wearing my chain.
Right.
All right?
Right.
And that's done by a brother that grew up right down the block from me. Okay? Named Jay-Z.
Okay.
I got the baddest bitch in the game wearing my chain.
She allowed him to say that. She's a multi-millionaire too.
That's the mother of his children.
She also.
That's the mother of his children.
They also said that she.
Beyonce. To those that don't know, that's Beyonce.
Right. She's also going to come up with an album of a butt cheek show. You know that?
No, I've never seen any album.
She's getting ready to come out with a new one. It's shown on the cover.
Oh, I've never.
I haven't never seen that one.
Huh?
When is that coming out?
I don't know.
and he's telling the truth. It might sound funny, but it's the truth. You think we all heard that she didn't hear? She was referred to, the motherless children was referred to as a bitch. And I'm just hoping, I'm being optimistic by saying she didn't like it. But she understood that helped sell the music. But I'm just
She likes dressing like real exposed, like she does it a lot. In the
look.
She might have wrote that one.
Well, who knows? But I'm just going to figure that's Jay-Z being Jay-Z. But I hope you're wrong about that. She didn't write it.
She's known to
Look.
put a few lines in there.
The Temptations saying, you know, the way you do the things you do. You know, my girl ain't too proud to beg. Come on now. The Temptations singing a song about, baby, if I, you know, got to get on my knees, I'll do it. You know, just don't leave. You know, so that's a big difference in talking about songs about, you know, you selling crack. Songs about when I come into the club, everybody know to hit the floor. You know, big difference.
Linda Jones is the same line in your person.
Linda Jones, yeah, you will. Oh my goodness, could that woman sing?
Yeah.
Hypnotized, right?
Hypnotized.
What have I done?
For your precious love.
For your precious love.
Yeah. She was saying you gotta go to the ladies, you gotta get your knees once in a while.
That stuff takes too long, man. It takes too long.
Man.
Ain't got that kind of time.
Look.
Man. Gotta go work.
Look, when you think of songs, you know, like, darling, you sent me.
Try not to sing like
Yeah, well, you know, I was teaching that guy named Sam how to sing so hard that I lost my voice in the process. But I taught a man named Sam Cook to sing You Send Me.
I heard about that.
And, you know, I traveled all the way to Chicago. It was freezing cold, too. And got a real bad cold trying to teach that boy how to sing.
For real?
But he learned. And then by the time I went to Detroit and taught some sister, I think her name was Franklin or Aretha.
Yeah.
You know, when I taught her, she sang that song, Respect. Whole big difference. R-E-S-P-E-C-T. You know, Hey Girl TCD, you know what? Big difference, those kind of songs, man, you know. But you know, speaking of Detroit, Smokey singing, you know, You Can Depend on Me, Who's Loving You, Ooh Baby. You know, songs like that, songs about love and
relationship was for his wife.
Yeah, well, his wife was a part of the group at one time. The Drifters, There Goes My Baby. See somebody trying to sing. There Goes My Baby. Saturday Night at the Movies. This Magic Moment. Speaking of magic, what about Blue Magic?
Yeah.
Singing. Spell.
Spell.
Singing songs like Spell. What's Come Over Me?
What's Chasing Rainbow?
You know, Chasing Rainbow. I mean, can you imagine that? What's Come Over Me?
Yeah, that song.
What's Come Over Me?
You don't need that today. You just need a bag of weed.
You know,
A bag of weed in the backseat.
you know, the Manhattan singing songs like There's No Me Without You.
Yeah.
Well, now they saying it's all about me. But Manhattan said there's no me
Then he also
without you.
Then he also sung Here We Are Again. You know what that was about?
What's that?
Here We Are Again. You know what that was about?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, when Billy Paul made the song Me and Mrs. Jones, what was he talking about? Because a lot of people don't get it.
Mrs. Jones.
No, he's talking about his Aaron Jones.
His who?
His Aaron Jones.
Well, it could be, but we'll just stay on the surface that he was singing about. He was saying that he loved this woman, but he was married. But he loved another woman.
Right.
So he said they would meet the same place at the same time, same cafe. So he's saying that he loved her. So in other words, the element of love was afoot. And I'm not advocating extramarital affairs at all. However,
That's the problem. That's why there's no relationship.
you know,
Remember Luther Ingram?
yeah, Yeah, if loving you is wrong, I don't want to
It's
be right.
sad. These women don't understand that.
Well,
They just mad that you got a side piece and they just go back to the real
well,
reason.
let's keep it to the songs that got us where we need, Earth, Wind, and Fire, head to the sky. Keep your head to the sky. Or go way back to Mahalia Jackson, How I Got Over.
Or Whitney Houston, saving all my love for you.
That's beautiful. And that's the beauty of it all. But we'll stop there. I'm just saying cultural. Because when we discussed it earlier, we talked about how art and music is a part reflective of what we about, the principles we stand on, the morality that we're supposed to exhibit. Our culture, that's part of our culture. So that's not, so Ray, we'll start now. We can take Q&A, and since Ray walked away, we'll start the Q&A in here, and then he can do the Q&A over on the internet. But we'll start first with anybody here with a question.
You mentioned Kwame Ture.
I mentioned Kwame Nkrumah.
But Kwame Ture and a great deal of this goes to the politics portion of the seven.
You guys speak up so they can hear you too.
This goes to the politics portion of the seven people activities. Why is it in the black community that there's so many like black nationalists that are communists?
That what?
That are communists.
That are communists. I think that,
And socialists.
yeah, I understand that, but I would say that we're all looking for answers. And we're all looking to remove the yoke of white oppression. So some countries have formed sort of socialist economic systems, as whether it's Cuba, United States launched a coup against Kwame Nkrumah because he felt that America felt that they would observe some type of socialist system. Chavez nationalized the oil. So that to America represents a problem because they feel that if you're the leader of a country, you should benefit. You should be a billionaire. You should take a lot of the money like the Shah did, as opposed to Mossadegh, who nationalized the oil in Iran. But when the Shah came in, it became strictly capitalism. So they had Mossadegh removed and put the Shah back in power. So Fidel said the money for Cuba are for Cubans, not for American investors and businessmen. So consequently, that's frowned upon in the highest circles of America. So if you try to free yourself and institute a system like Libya and other places where everybody benefits, that's a system that's dangerous to capitalism. Because capitalism must continue to grow and it must continue to expand. So when you see countries that try to form a system that's not based on the US dollar, that's a threat to America, and consequently, you're going to have to be removed one way or the other. Next question.
What is that you drinking out of that bucket?
I have a dry throat. I'm just drinking tea. Ray, you can start your questioning on the Zoom. Because you can start the Zoom. If anybody has a question, if not, I'll just keep going.
Okay, anybody on the Zoom have a question? Avery, Mikhail?
Anybody on the Zoom have a question?
No.
All right.
I'm good.
Okay, there we go. Anybody else?
Culture is a weapon, can be a weapon. It can be weaponized to the extent that it can be used against you. Now, some of these rappers that put certain lyrics that are denigrating to our people, specifically to our women, and denigrate them, and talk about, you know, how good she performs, fellatio or other sexual acts. We look at that with the spirit of normality. It's nothing we're so narcotized, we're so numb to what we hear that we don't raise saying about it. But Michael Jackson mentioned it in the song, Don't Jew Me. And they had to do a recall on that music because he was inferring that to use that term Jew, I guess as a verb, as an action word, means that you're gonna rob me, you're going to lowball me on this deal, and I'm gonna lose and you're gonna win. And all those albums had to be retracted just for that alone. You cannot make music and art that denigrates them. And now you have to be mindful of what you say about the gay community. You have to be very mindful and careful with what you say because they will come after you. If I said to you tonight within our culture, because I'm going to actually really do this the next time, but if I said to you that that homosexuality was not a part of the black experience or the African experience, and we do not have any of that, any approval of that in our literature, somebody might want to argue. However, what will you use as proof? You're going to get simplistic and you're going to say, you mean a continent going back thousands of years that had millions of people? You're going to say not one of them was gay? I didn't say that. It was not a part of the culture. Consequently, homosexuality is a European culture. It's a European concept. And I can say that concretely. And will not back down from that one bit. Show me in our literature where we approve of a man getting in bed with another man. Does not exist.
Elin Harris.
What's that?
Elin Harris.
It does not exist.
That's in our literature.
What literature?
Elin Harris's books in the called White.
Okay, then maybe I need to outline black people outside of the white experience that have not been infected with European culture. It does not exist. That's a European concept. As a matter of fact, in Greece, when friends came over to your house and you was rich, you could show off to them by inviting them to your house and serving them after food and drink, little boys. The richer among them, the more aristocratic, the more well-educated, the richest among them would serve little boys to their friends. That you could outdo and go one up on your friends by having more little boys as manservants or what have you, as opposed to your friends who might have had one or two and you got 10 or 15. You would outdo them by when you come over here, you don't have to bring nothing, everything is here for you. That's a European concept. that you will not find that in Africa. So that's what I'm saying. There is no literature. You can go deep into Yoruba, Akan. You can go deep into Ashanti. You can airway these various cultures in West Africa. You can go into Kemetic history. You will not see that. They have, whether it's these concepts of Gadames and all of these things are European concepts. Cupid, all these European concepts. The gods, there are gods in Greece and in Rome came down and slept. They came down in human form and slept with men and women. So that's a concept outside of ours. So when you try to use the civil rights movement, which was a black movement, when you try to use that and now infuse yourself and to equate homosexuality and civil rights is one and the same, that's foreign to us. Now, I'm going to get into a lot of things foreign, but I wanted to mention that part, that's foreign. Anybody,
Well, they use them as a weapon against the,
say that again?
they're using that homosexuality, the LGBT weapon against us now.
Oh yeah, they're aggressive.
Yeah.
They, as a matter of fact, I think, and I read it somewhere where Lee Daniels said his projects that he does now and in the future will all have at least one gay or lesbian person in all his movies, whatever he does in that. He's part of normalizing that.
You can't turn on TV without seeing that stuff. Right, basically.
You cannot, and I agree with you, you cannot watch a movie or program now involving black folks, involving a gay person, and you know yourself that in our culture, because I'm still talking about black culture, in our culture, if you remember, and many of us come from the South, where the majority of us were, or the Caribbean in South America, you know, from Africa, you have cultural norms that did not include that. There's no Caribbean culture, even though I would say, first of all, if you was able to show me an instance, they have been infected too. They were colonized. So if you see that in West Africa now, colonized, all these places, but going to a traditional place where they are not colonized, you will not see that. They have forced, literally forced Caribbean countries to accept homosexuality as part of the culture. Allow them to march, allow them to have gay pride days in various countries. And no one was bigger at enforcing that than Secretary Clinton. Hillary Clinton, she did that. So I'm just saying that...
They just flew a flag off of the embassy in Ghana. Did you see that?
No, did they?
They have an
In Ghana?
LGBT, yeah. Ghana. They having a fit over there now. I don't know if they were able to get them to take it down. But they were offended and...
Okay, well, it definitely is an offense to a black
a month
country.
ago.
It's definitely an offense, and I know they've been trying hard for years to get Ghana to accept homosexuality. I know. So I'm not sure why, but that's something new. I'm definitely gonna check that out.
Yeah.
But I'll stop there if there's no more. Does anybody else have a question? All right, Ray, we can bring it to a close.
The question election in, what do we do about it? Just watch it?
No, I'm just from the outset, I'm gonna lay out some things, but from the outset, I'm saying that's not a part of our culture.
All right, everybody, give Brother Mike a big hand for the lecture on culture. We'll be back here in 2 weeks. I want to give my Zoom audience, thank you for the support, Brother Avery, Mikhail, and Ed, and everybody that came through. We got big fights on our hands with this vaccine slab and these courts, so it's going to be real rough. But everybody give yourself a big hand and thank you for supporting the Brooklyn William Mackey Jr.'s History